Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Way That I See It. My name is Lucy Superfox, and this is my podcast. So today I want to talk to you about alignment. What is alignment? It's a fancy spiritual word, so what the hell does it mean? Now, obviously, I've been talking in all the previous episodes about money. So if you are someone that's like passionate about making more, willing to receive more, want to level up, I have literally done about 20 episodes on money. So make sure to scroll back through both the beginning of season 6 and all through season 5 to plug into that. But what I want to talk about, and kind of a slight direction shift, I guess I want to take into kind of maybe some manifestation practices. And then I want to talk about, I've got some great guests coming up for you on healing and self-love. So I've got a ton of stuff that really I see all falls under the concept of manifestation or self-actualization, which simply means becoming the best version of yourself. So what I want to talk about today is alignment and what alignment really is. So for me, alignment is the feeling of being on purpose, the feeling of being in the energy of the thing that you want, of lining up with things and feeling like they're part of who you are, or that you're connected to them. And in turn, what it makes it feel like, rather than hustling your way to your goals and constantly striving and trying to do the work and then arriving there and thinking, oh shit, now what it's about is becoming that person who needs to have that thing, is stepping into the person who has that kind of body, stepping into the person that has that kind of mindset, stepping into that person that has that kind of energy or that kind of wealth. And so as a result, it feels natural to you. And that's really what alignment is. So what I want to talk to you about today is, how can you get yourself aligned with your goals? How can you line up with the energy of the goals of the things that you want? And ultimately, not just to collapse time and bring your manifestations to you quicker, but also how to give you more joy, more happiness, more satisfaction, in life. Because that's really what it is getting lined up with the thing that you want so that you can have the thing that you want. Because in the having of the thing that you want, you're as likely in a feeling that you've attributed to that, so whether it's joy, whether it's happiness, whether it's fulfillment. So my first piece of advice is this: you've got to get really clear on what you want. I've talked about the 5 steps of manifestation a lot on this podcast. So you've got to get really, really clear on what you want. You've got to know what it is that you want and why you want it. And one of the things I think is really important to differentiate when you're thinking about why you want something is, do I want it because of a believed or a perceived status or a perceived experience? So do you want something because then other people will think that you're rich, or because other people will then think that you're cool, or because, so like an ego decision or an ego driven desire? Do you want something? And there's nothing wrong, by the way, with wanting those things. Like, this is not coming from a place of judgment. It's just asking you to really consider why you want the things. Or do you want the thing because it genuinely lights you up, it genuinely makes you feel excited, it genuinely feels like on your path and on your purpose? Because what I often see is when somebody wants something from an ego-driven decision, or because they perceive there will be something that they will have in the end of having it that's about other people or about validation or whatever, is that what happens in that moment is it's very hard to sustain momentum. It's very hard to sustain commitment. It's very hard to sustain motivation, because what they're doing is doing something that doesn't bring them joy. It doesn't bring them fulfillment. It doesn't bring them happiness. They're not pursuing something that's a long-term state of being. They're pursuing something that's a moment in time or a drop in the ocean. And so as a result, they don't feel committed to the cause, because it's not something that deeply they desire in their soul. It's rather than a heart desire, it's a head desire. So a good question to ask yourself when you're thinking about what you want, when you're thinking, under this premise of alignment, is, why do I want this thing? Do I want it because of what I believe will happen when I get it, in terms of what other people think, what other people will say, how things will go for me? Or do I want it because it genuinely feels good to me? It feels like where I'm supposed to be. It feels like who I'm supposed to be. It feels like the right next step. So I think it's really important to clarify the difference. And like I said, there's no judgment in wanting ego-based things. Like, having an ego-based desire is not a bad thing, right? There's no bad or good when it comes to desires. Like, in the words of Amanda Francis, your desires are safe guidance. So whether you want the Range Rover, or whether, you want the holiday to, that 5-star holiday in Dubai, like whatever it is, that's okay to just want that and actually like the fact that you'll get to post it on the gram or whatever it is you're doing it for, right? But what you've got to realize is the energy and the commitment to bringing that to life will feel different to the energy and commitment to bringing to life something that's a calling of your heart, that's something that feels like if you don't do it, you would die. Like, that's the difference in the feelings. And so it's really important to differentiate those two things, because those two things lead to very different states of energy, very different states of being, very different states of commitment. And so this is why you've got to really want something. And by really want something, the wanting has got to come from a deep sense of being. And really what I have done, if let's say I've had an ego-led goal, normally my ego-driven goal is actually connected to a heart-led goal. There's something deep in my heart that I feel called to do and called to share and called to be, and then an ego-based desire comes out as a result of that. And what instead I do is, rather than being focused on the ego-based desires, I bring it back to my heart. I bring it back to why I would love that thing, what feelings and state of being that would give for me, how it would make me feel, how it would feel like it was lined up with my calling and my purpose. And so when I do that, what then happens is it stops being just an ego-based desire. It becomes a desire of my heart, and it's much then easier to get motivated, and I get all the shiny shit along the way. So that's the thing sometimes with a heart-based desire, is there isn't any shiny shit. There aren't any tangible things to touch and feel, because it's about a state of being, right? Or it's about, you know, being on a journey. Whereas a head desire generally has destinations. It has moments in time. It has clear pinch points. So you do need both, right? To self-actualize, you need both. But I think if you get yourself caught up in lots of ego desires, you'll be telling stories about why you need to have something, and the energy that you try to achieve those things in, or inverted commas manifest, you're manifesting fucking anything. You'll be working your ass off because you're trying to force energy in the direction of the thing you want, even though, and it's like stepping on the accelerator and the brake at the same time, is that you're trying to accelerate towards a goal when when your heart and your body's just saying it's not really what I want. So the key is to be able to, you know, step on the accelerator and release the brake. And the way that you release the brake is by getting your heart and your energy and your soul behind it. And that's really what I describe alignment is lining up who you believe you are, lining up your stories, your identity, your belief system, with the thing that you want. Even if on the outward it looks like an ego-based desire, it's being able to line those two things up so that you can give it full commitment, you can give it your full energy, you can put your full ass in, right? Because when we don't put our full commitment in, we have to work harder to make it happen. And, you know, I've done a lot of podcasts on manifestation, and one of the biggest questions I always got is like, how do you know the difference between action and inspired action? And inspired action feels like a nudge. Inspired action feels like something that you wouldn't think to do. It feels like somebody messaging you. It feels like the opportunity landing on your lap. And that happens when your energy is behind something. There are people that don't want to practice the rules of manifestation, don't want to practice rules of alignment, and they just want to work really hard. And I believe every possibility is possible for everyone, right? So some people will tell you the way they got to their goal was just to work really fucking hard and give it everything they've got, and that's totally fine. But I actually believe that you can get there quicker, with more peace, with more ease, with more joy, if you align with it, right? So if you line up your energetic state, your emotional being, your heart's desires with your ego-based or head desires. So that's really what alignment is joining those two things together. And then when they're joined together, you feel like you're on purpose, you feel like you're on a mission, you feel like it's your natural birthright to do those things, or your natural state of being, that when you wake up in the morning, it's not, oh yeah, what are my goals again? It's like, this is who I am, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing. And that feeling, that drive of being on purpose, not only does it create massive momentum because you physically have energy directed in one, you know, very clear direction, but it also creates momentum because everything falls in line. Like, you've got good tracks to run on, you feel like everything's kind of joined up. And what happens so much of the time, like I said, is in life we've got people stepping on the accelerator and the brake in different parts of their life, and that can be exhausting. And it's why a lot of people actually stop having goals, desires and dreams, because they're so afraid to want something, because they believe that it's going to be really hard to get it, and so they never even get started. And so my strong advice is instead try to join up the head ego-based desires with the heart-led, heart-centered based desires. Bring those two things together, and that's alignment. And when you've got alignment, you're in the energy of the thing that you want. When you then make decisions and you then take action and then you move forward, what you're creating is there's an energetic vibration as a result of that, but also things feel better. And when something feels better and it feels good, it makes you want to do it more, right? When something feels hard and difficult, the human in you goes, nah, I ain't fucking doing that again, right? Whereas when you do something and it feels good and it feels flowy and it feels easy and it feels joyful and it feels abundant, you're like, yeah, I can do that again. So what then you create is the habits and rituals and routines by flow and momentum and ease versus pushing a snowball uphill, right? This is why when I talk about habit change, the biggest things we have to think about with habit change is you have to freaking want it, but you also have to do the work to believe you can have it. And so that's really what alignment is, the first two steps of manifestation, getting really clear on what you want and aligning your beliefs with it. And when you get really clear on what you want, you align your beliefs, your stories, your soul, your heart, and then you design the paradigms, the belief systems, the constructs that work all together. You've created the tracks to run on, and that's where the inspired action comes. And then the following step from inspired action is to make space, and that comes as an inspired thing where you make space, you make room for the manifestation, because you're embodying the person you need to be, you're thinking as that person, you're acting as that person, you're aligned with who that person's going to be. These are things all feel natural to you. So then you find it easy to trust the process and hold the faith that the manifestation is coming, or that the goal will be achieved, or that you'll reach destination, because everything else feels good. And when it feels good, you'll fall in love with the process. When we fall in love with the process, the result is inevitable. So that was my thoughts on alignment. I hope it resonated. I hope you loved it. It was a short one today, but I feel like it was good. We've got some long ones coming up because I've got some interviews coming up, and I am not wasting a minute with some of these people. We've got some super successful people in the personal development space, some super successful people in the space of manifestation, some in the space of healing. I'm going to do an interview with my therapist for you. She is unbelievable. An interview with my Reiki practitioner. Some of the other people that I've worked with on my healing, self-love, self-discovery journey, I'm going to be interviewing them. So I hope this resonated in some way. I hope there was something you loved about this. I'd love for you to share this podcast, recommend it, share it, tag me on the gram at Next Level Lucy, at Lucy Superfox. You can tag either or. Both are available, and I am open to receiving all the comments, all the love, all the joy, and all the reviews. So make sure to go do that, whether you're watching or listening on Spotify, on Apple or YouTube, or wherever else you might be watching it. So I hope you have the most beautiful week. So I feel like spring is on the way around the corner at the time of recording this anyway. Today it was sunny, it smelled like grass. I was like, oh my God, here we go. And I'm a much better person and much nicer person when it's sunny. So I hope you have the most beautiful week. I loved sharing with you today. If you've got anything that you would love me to talk about over the coming weeks, make sure to drop me a DM, and I'll be sure to include it in my interviews or on my individual quick podcast. But have the most incredible week. That was the way that I see it, and I'll see you on the next episode.